Welcome to our daily Forex market analysis, and this is for a preparation for trading on September 17th, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, so as usual, we'll get started with our calendar here. So in terms of the news today, there wasn't a ton of news as such, but as we talked about on the weekend, there was that oil-related stuff going on. So the oil fields in Saudi Arabia got attacked, and as a result of that, there was a supply issue with the oil, and we saw oil jump up quite a bit. So that was the main theme of the day. And now coming up here, we have monetary policy meeting minutes here for Australia. And these ones here, so overall, Reserve Bank of Australia has been more on the dovish side here. They are supporting interest rate cuts, but at this point, we're not really expecting any more cuts right now. So overall, all we're really looking at here will be the commentary out of them. If their comments are still dovish, if they're concerned about US-China trade relations or overall growth of the economy, those can have a negative impact on Australian dollar, but I don't expect it to be anything major here out of the monetary policy meeting minutes. Tomorrow here, not a lot of important news or data here. We have economic sentiment numbers here out of Germany, so that will be important. We have then manufacturing sales data out of Canada, but other than that, we just have some yellow news. So housing index numbers are important. They do tend to have an impact on US dollars, especially if it's a slow day with not too much major news coming up. But the theme here tomorrow going into the rest of the week here will be, the focus will be on the FOMC coming up on Wednesday. So right now, everybody's expecting an interest rate cut from the Fed, and that's really what the focus will be. So we may have a bit of a quiet day leading into the FOMC here. So just keep that in mind here for, especially with all the US dollar crosses. Everything's focused on the Fed for this week, at least until Wednesday here. All right, so let's go on to our charts. Euro dollar here, euro dollar had a major drop. So we had talked about this in our weekly analysis as well. We were expecting a drop based on the geopolitical stuff with Saudi Arabia. And as a result of that, so we have seen a big drop here in euros. So bias is bearish. So nice bearish engulfing candle close here. So looking for price to drop further. And our target here, the first target would be 1.0980. And below that, we are looking at 1.0950 and then 1.0920, basically looking for price to come back into the range. It has been trading in a range, hasn't been able to break through the high here, rejected the high. So now we're looking for price to drop. So bias is bearish here for euro dollar. Oops. Pound dollar here, pound hasn't been as bearish as the euro. So with the British pound, one of the things that's driving it right now is also, or the market, I should say, is waiting for the decision tomorrow in regards to Boris Johnson. So he has basically not hung the parliament, but he's actually given everybody time off in the parliament. Everybody's out till October 15, and this was in regards to all the Brexit developments where the parliament basically voted out the no deal Brexit, which Boris Johnson was pushing towards. So as a result of that, Prime Minister basically gave the parliament time off. And now tomorrow, now that was challenged in the court. So first court actually said it was okay. Now it's being challenged again in the court. So tomorrow is that decision where the court will say whether that, letting the parliament basically giving the time off is the right thing to do, because then they can't make any decisions, right? So this is what we are waiting for tomorrow. So British pound is right now sort of just in the wait and see mode in regards to that. In terms of what to expect around that, if the decision, if the court basically stays out of it, then we could see British pound drop. But if the court says this is unlawful, Prime Minister does not have the power to do this, then we could see British pound go up as a result of that. So that's kind of what I'm looking, those are the two things we are looking at tomorrow in regards to British pound here. So we do have a drop here. The thing with the pound, though, is it is still holding above this previous support resistance level here. So I would look for price to drop a bit more here into, sorry about that. So I would expect the price to drop a bit more here into this previous support resistance level, resistance turning into support. If it stays above, then we're looking for price to move higher. So looking for a deeper pullback, or looking for price to drop a bit more into 1.2380. If it holds above, we're looking for price to go higher. If it goes through that level, then I'm looking for it to drop. So if it goes through, then I will look for a pullback and then a continuation towards the next level here at 1.2280. Otherwise, if it holds above this level, then we are just looking for a further move to the upside. So that's where we stand right now. My bias here is neutral, because this is still looking a little bit bullish right now, even though we have had a bearish day on this, but it's still holding above the previous resistance, which gives it that slightly bullish bias here. So it's neutral because I am looking for more of a pullback here. But then again, we are going to wait and see what happens at 1.2380. Like I said, if it holds above, this is long. If it goes through this level, then we may have a short opportunity into 1.2280. So at this point, bias is neutral, and those are the two scenarios that I'll be working off of. Next one here is Aussie dollar here. So as we can see, Aussie has been stuck in this range for a bit, and we should see a reaction, some sort of a reaction as part of the monetary policy. But what we see is multiple rejections here. Price has not been able to break through this previous support resistance level at 0.6880. So it hasn't held above. So this one is looking bearish here. So my bias is more to the downside. Now, the monetary policy meetings can change that, but just based on the technicals here, I think we could see a drop in this one. So I would look for price to break down here. If it doesn't break down, then of course, just like we talked about pound dollar here, this one could go higher, and we could see that continuation move, and this could just be a flag. And then we could see a further extension. But for now, if it does break down here, then I'm looking for price to pull back a bit to do a back test, and then we could see this move to the downside. So at this point, perhaps we should be neutral, not maybe not bearish so much at this point. So let's do that. So bias is neutral. First, I'm looking for price to retest the bottom of this little range it's been trading in. And if it breaks through the bottom here, then my bias will turn bearish, and I would look for a further move to the downside. However, if it goes through, if it doesn't break through, then we could see a further move up into the high. And if it breaks through the high here, then I will look for a continuation to the upside. So for now, bias is neutral for Aussie dollar. New Zealand dollar, on the other hand, here we've had a nice bearish candle close here. So bias is still to the downside here. Next target is 0.6320, and then we are looking at 0.6280. So bias here is bearish. We could see a bit of a uptick here just to retest this previous support resistance level at 0.6360 or 50, and then I will look for a drop here. So bias is bearish for New Zealand dollar. First target is 0.6320 and then 0.6280. So bearish bias for New Zealand dollar. Dollar CAD here, this one as well we had talked about on the weekend because it's related to oil. And we had discussed how even though bias is bullish based on just the technicals, but because oil drops, then Canadian dollar goes up, which means dollar CAD will drop. So that's what we have right now. It is trading in a range at the moment. So what I would look for here would be a bit of a push higher here. So right now, my bias is neutral, first of all, I should say that, because now we need to see what happens. So the oil, as the oil moves, we are likely to see dollar CAD move with that as well. And we'll talk about oil in just a bit. So just looking at the charts here, I would look for a price to retest a little bit higher here. So pull back a bit and then potentially into 1.3250. And if it stays below, I will look for a price to drop a bit here into 1.3210 or 3200 here. And if it goes through this level, then we can see this continuation move to the downside. But at this point, it is still trading between these two levels here. And we need to see which way it wants to go. So bias is neutral, but this is my base case scenario that I'm working with. Now, should it go through this level, we could see it go all the way into the high and then potentially react to that. So that's to be seen. But for now, just looking for a pullback into 1.3250 potentially, and then a further drop into 1.3200. So neutral bias for dollar CAD. Our silver here, this one is interesting. Again, with the geopolitical events, we did see silver push up because it is a safe haven asset here. Now, but it hasn't really gone through this resistance level at 18. So if it stays below 18, I'm looking for a further drop here. And first target would be 17.40. And if it goes through that level, then we are back into this range here and price could drop further. So for now, bias is bearish here still. So I would look for a pullback into 18. And if it stays, I'm looking for a drop. 17.50 is the first target there. And then 17.20 will be the second target. Gold here, gold has actually dropped as well. We saw that it moved up, but it hasn't held that level. So bias here is bearish and looking for price to drop back towards the bottom of this little range it's trading in, 1485 and then 1480 and then 1470. So bias is bearish for gold. Oil here, so this is the big jump in oil. It had closed down, but we saw it gap up all the way because of the attacks on Saudi oil fields. With this one here, this is bearish at this point, or I would look for a price to drop a little bit. So first, excuse me. Sorry about that. This cough is still lingering around. Okay, so I will look for it to drop a bit here into 60.80 level. And then we are into this support resistance level and we could see price go up. But this big move may just be short-lived. So we could see a drop. So first target here is 60.86. And if it goes through this level, we could see it continue lower into 60. So for now, bearish bias for oil. Copper here, copper has dropped as well. So bias is bearish, now looking for it to come back down towards the bottom of this range here. 2.55 is the target, so bearish bias here for copper. Bitcoin here, it's still going sideways here, but it's holding below this 10,400 level here, which means we could see it drop here. So we could see price drop back down towards 96.70 level, back into this support level here. So bias is bearish for Bitcoin at this point. All right, let's take a look at equities here. Equities, we saw an initial drop here as a result of the Saudi stuff there. So, however, price did turn around. So it came into support and then we have seen a move higher. So right now, like I said, the focus is on the Fed. So if the Fed, cuts rates, then we're likely to see this go up. Depending on their language commentary as well. But for now, though, market is optimistic that the Fed will cut rate. And as a result, we are seeing this move higher. So bias here is bullish. We do see a bullish pin bar here. So I would look for price to go towards the high here. 3020 is the target. So bias is bullish. Now, we do see support resistance right about at the 3000 level. In case it doesn't get through, it could drop. But I think we are likely to see prices going higher here. So bullish bias for S&P 500, 3020 is the target. NASDAQ, same thing here. Initially, there was a drop in the equities, but then a price has pushed all the way back up here. So bias is bullish. Be mindful of this resistance that it's coming into right now at 78.85 level, because if it doesn't go through, it could turn around. Like that. I don't expect it to, though. Bias is bullish. Like I said, everybody's optimistic about Fed cutting rates. So bullish bias, 78.85, and then we're looking at 79.70. So bullish bias for NASDAQ as well. DAX here, this one has dropped a bit, but we are still trading in this range sideways. So I think this one could go higher into 12,470 level. It's just sideways, so my bias here is neutral. We'll have to see if it drops below this 12,300 level, then we could see it come back into 12,250. But otherwise, this one could go higher as well towards the top of the range at 12,470, or let's say 12,500. FTSE here. FTSE has actually dropped a bit here for the last 3 days. It hasn't really done a whole lot. So I think this one could come back into the range. So I would look for a bit of a move lower here towards 72.85. And then if it holds above that level, this one could then do one of these. So push down and then move back higher. But for now, I would say bearish bias here. 72.85 first target, 72.20 is the second target here for FTSE. Last but not least here, Nikkei here, this is bullish for today. Same thing, it dropped and then went right back up. Bullish candle close today, so bias is bullish. Next target is 22,000, so bullish bias here for Nikkei as well. All right, so that's it for today. You guys have a great trading day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.